and Ohio gun owners. You guys have been great to work with. And all of you guys on that Facebook event page, you have brought it together, and we are so proud of all of you. And I haven't cried, so I'm doing well. So I'm going to introduce a woman who I have met on more than one occasion that I believe is, all the horses are here, that's great. I believe is going to defend our Second Amendment rights. I'm speaking as Carolyn here. I've spoken with Mary Taylor, our Lieutenant Governor, don't hold that against her please, who is our gubernatorial candidate. She is dynamite, guys. Mary, it's you now.
So President Reagan and the others are in danger of being taken away from us. That is why I'm running to be the next governor of the state of Ohio. So my American dream was defined by my dad. He was a single parent who suffered from polio as a child, but he still worked hard every single day as a bricklayer. He gave up his own comfort, and he had no expectation that anybody, especially government, owed him anything. And he fought every single day to give his children a better life. Mary Taylor was made tough, like every one of you here today. I paid my way through college. I got involved in politics because of a local property rights issue. A church had purchased property and was being told what to do with it by the government, and it was wrong. So I sought appointment to a city council seat, got elected, and then got recruited to run for the state tax increase. And I said, no way. I got kicked off of the finance committee because of that. I served as your auditor of state and was the only Republican to win a statewide election in 2006, and I was called the watchdog of the Treasury. I did what I said I was going to do, protect your hard-earned tax dollars being spent by government at every single level. As Lieutenant Governor, I have fought Obamacare from the beginning, and I have gotten rid of job-killing regulations because at the end of the day, it's all about having a great job opportunity here in the state of Ohio. So let me tell you a little bit about my Second Amendment history. I am a concealed carry license holder myself, and unlike my opponent in this election, I have been a gun advocate my entire career. Throughout my time in public service, I have fought for the rights of gun owners. I was a co-sponsor of the bill that created the concealed carry license in Ohio. I also voted for the bill that closed the media loophole, which gave reporters access to the private records of concealed carry license holders, an absolute and clear violation of all of our privacy. And I voted for the bill that removed many of the poison pills that were inserted in the original concealed carry legislation that could have restricted our right to bear arms. My record on the Second Amendment is clear, and it's there for you to see. I hope you'll check it out. When John Kasich proposed his new gun control measures last week, I immediately spoke out against them. When tragic shootings occur in this country, like we saw recently in Florida, establishment politicians immediately take this knee-jerk reaction and start to restrict our gun rights instead of dealing with the root cause of the problem. I have said on numerous occasions, the best way to stop a bad guy with a gun is to have a good guy with a gun.
Yeah!
The first thing that someone does when a criminal pulls out a gun, you call 911 and ask somebody with a gun to show up and help you. So how many people in the crowd are carrying today? I bet we are standing in the safest place in our country right here today in Columbus, Ohio.
Yes!
So let me tell you just a little bit about my opponent, because you have a clear choice in this race, and you have a tireless champion of Second Amendment rights with Mary Taylor. But let me tell you about Mike DeWine, my opponent. He flip-flopped on the Second Amendment almost as many times as he's fallen asleep in meetings. He earned an F from the NRA. And both Sherrod Brown, you know who he is, right? And Richard Cordray, they're both Democrats. They were both endorsed by the NRA as the lesser of two evils when they were running against Mike DeWine. How bad do you have to be on gun rights when the NRA endorses two of the most liberal Democrats in Ohio politics against you.
Here, here.
Do you know, though, who did endorse Mike DeWine? Anybody remember? The Brady campaign. Do you remember that? The Brady campaign. That's right, the country's foremost gun control advocacy group endorsed my opponent, Mike DeWine. He voted for an assault weapons ban, he voted for expanded background checks, and he voted for a gun fingerprinting database. DC DeWine was against guns before he was for them, and he's recently backed away again as he has proposed to ban bump stocks. So it looks like he's starting to slide backwards towards where he started in the first place. So one thing is certain, I don't trust Mike DeWine with a gun, and I definitely don't trust him to defend our gun rights. So don't just take my word for it. Remember 2010 when Mike DeWine was running for Attorney General? Buckeye Firearms asked their supporters to bring anybody but Mike signs. Bring your Mike signs, your Mike Go Home signs, bring your Vote Freedom First signs, bring your what part of shall not be infringed, don't you understand signs. But I will tell you this, you have a choice in this race this year for governor. And when I am governor, I will defend your right to bear arms. And I will shut down sanctuary cities in the state of Ohio and work. And I will work with President Trump to build the wall and secure our borders. But first, I must defeat the Ohio political establishment, which would compromise the very conservative principles that motivate me to seek office today. So Reagan famously said, "A time for choosing," and you have a time to choose. What part of shall not be infringed don't they understand?
All of it.
So here is our message to John Kasich, Mike DeWine, and every other establishment politician.
Yeah.
Come and take it.
Yeah!
God bless all of you for being here today and protecting our Second Amendment rights.
That was Mary Taylor.
All right, so again, I'm Chris Dorr with Ohio Gun Owners, and we've got a problem in Ohio with politicians who say one thing and do exactly the opposite once they get into office. We've just heard a fantastic speech by Mary Taylor here, and actually just now when we shook hands, it's the first time I've ever met her. Ohio Gun Owners is dedicated to holding politicians accountable, especially after they get elected. We've been getting bombarded with phone calls, emails, Facebook messages, and the like, saying, what the heck do I do? We've got one organization endorsing Mike DeWine, and we've got Mary Taylor on the other hand. How the heck am I supposed to make a decision in this upcoming Republican primary? Now, we're a 501c4 organization. We don't endorse candidates, but what we do is an aggressive candidate survey program. We want to know exactly what they will do if they're elected. If she's elected governor, will she sign the bill that Governor Kasich says he will not sign, which is Stand Your Ground Law? Anybody here a Stand Your Ground Law fan?
Yeah!
Yeah. We're going to ask her right here now a couple of these questions that matter a lot to gun owners like you and me. We're going to ask her, I'm just going to read through them. Let me go through here. But the whole intent and purpose of this survey program is so that if she is successful and she reneges on her campaign promises afterwards, we have it in black and white. We can hold her accountable. We can say, look, you said this and now you're lying. So this is a hardcore survey, not weak-kneed, gun rights candidates don't like this stuff. And we're going to ask her these questions right now. We're going to give her an opportunity to sign it. and we're just going to do it right in front of you. Put her on the spot. That's what we gun owners want to do, right? All right, so the first question is, I'm just going to go through them one by one. There's 9 of them, so hang on. I'm going to give the pen to her, and she can check each one of these as we go through it. The first question is, if elected governor, would you sign into law legislation to implement no permit necessary constitutional carry, which would allow law-abiding citizens to carry firearms concealed for self-defense without government-issued permit or training cards? Folks, 12 states already have this, and so our question is, Mary, will you sign this into law?
Yes.
Yeah!
Number 2, here's a big one. If elected governor, would you sign into law stand your ground legislation, strengthening Ohio's self-defense laws by restoring the duty to disprove a self-defense claim to the prosecution, creating an enactment clause, eliminating the so-called duty to retreat that is so offensive, and allowing the use or threatened use of deadly force if an individual is attacked in a place they have a lawful right to be? Will she do what Governor Kasich refuses to do, yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah!
Number 3, we're 2 for 2, we're doing good. If elected, would you sign into law a bill to render unconstitutional federal gun controls unenforceable in the state of Ohio with strong enforcement provisions such as the Firearms Protection Act? What we're facing right now, folks, is gun control at the federal level. What this legislation would do is basically tell the federal government whenever they go out of their boundaries and pass gun control, it'd be the state of Ohio telling the federal government to go pound sand.
Yeah!
Will you sign it?
Yes, the federal government should not infringe upon our rights.
Exactly.
Yeah!
Number 4, if elected, would you veto legislation to limit the sale, manufacture, importation, or possession of rifles, shotguns, or handguns, including semi-automatic firearms, or magazines with certain arbitrary capacity limits? Folks, we're talking about Senate Bill 260 that they just introduced here at the State House just the other day. Will you veto it?
I will veto it.
Yeah!
4 for 4 of 9. Number 5, if elected governor, would you sign into law legislation to eliminate restrictions on law-abiding gun owners from carrying a firearm in certain so-called gun-free areas known as criminal safe zones? Will you get rid of them?
Yes.
Yeah!
All we got to do is look at all the recent mass shootings. They've all been in gun-free zones. If elected, number 6, if elected governor, would you sign into law legislation to allow law-abiding and legally eligible citizens, including students, to carry concealed on state-run colleges and university campuses? Folks, this is in consideration in a lot of states right now, in Florida and elsewhere. But it's a widely known fact that state universities and college campuses are target zones for helpless, usually teenage and young females. Would you support that law?
Absolutely, yes.
Number 7, if elected, would you veto legislation to restrict law-abiding citizens from privately selling firearms to other law-abiding citizens without requiring a federal firearms licensee as an intermediary or a state or federal background check? What this question is, will you stand in the gap and veto Bloomberg's hallmark agenda, which is universal gun registration?
Yes.
We need that right now, folks. We need a governor who will stand against this stuff. Number 8, if elected, would you veto all so-called mental health legislation that would deny law-abiding individuals their gun rights without due process through a court of law? That is something that they are talking about and considering right here in this building right now. They want to pass emergency red flags laws that would destroy gun owners' rights at ex parte hearings without you even being present to defend yourself. Unbelievable stuff. Will you veto that legislation?
Yes, and I have one thing to add. So my opponent has called for mental health professionals in all of our schools to assess and judge the mental health of our students for the sole purpose of keeping guns away from them. I don't trust government to do that. That is up to the parents.
Yes!
Decision.
So that's 8 for 8. Number 9, if elected, would you sign into law legislation to strengthen our state preemption laws with stiff penalties for violators like the city of Cleveland or the city of Cincinnati, these municipalities that are going out of control, that organizations like Ohioans for Concealed Carry have been forced to spend a lot of money litigating against? Will you put an end to that by putting teeth into our preemption statute?
Yes.
And so now is the big question. She's answered yes on all this. Will you sign your name and date this thing?
Absolutely.
Mary Taylor, Lieutenant Governor, State of Ohio.
We love you, Mary!
So the question being, are there any pro-gun candidates running for governor this time around? You got one right here.
Yes!
I've got a question. What are you going to do for my son's right? He's 18, travels within work, but yet the law says he can't carry.
I do not believe that arbitrary age restrictions solve any problems as it relates to the types of unfortunate situations we are seeing and tragedies we are seeing across our country. So to me, when you have an age restriction, it's arbitrary. It doesn't prevent or stop anything that it professes to prevent.
It fully goes against our Constitution.
Absolutely agree.
Outstanding.
Absolutely.
Thank you, honey.
Thank
You
you.
got my vote.
Thank you.
And by the way, Ohio gun owners promises to be an 800-pound gorilla in the districts of any politician who tries to increase the age for firearms here in Ohio from 18 up to 21 years old. An 800-pound gorilla. All right, so I'm trying to figure out. We're on a tight schedule here. Carolyn, you're gonna. Oh, sorry. There she is. She's sneaky. Carolyn.
Well, I got through the first one, so let's try this again. I would like to introduce a gentleman running for U.S. Senate. His name is Mike Gibbons. Mike Gibbons has become a friend of Ohio Carry. Mike Gibbons believes in our Constitution, and he believes in our Second Amendment. And I'd like to hand the microphone to him. Thank you, Mike.
Hi, I'm Mike Gibbons, and I'm running for the U.S. Senate. The first thing you need to know about me is I am not a politician.
That's it, I'm voting for you.
I'm a conservative, I'm a gun owner, and I'm a proud defender of the Second Amendment. Over the course of this campaign, I've angered a lot of Washington politicians.
Good.
I've angered them because I'm blunt, and I'm not afraid to tell the truth. So I'm going to be blunt. The left wants to take away your guns. The media wants to take away your guns. The Democrats want to take away your guns. They won't tell you that. They're going to tell you they want common sense gun control. But I want to tell you something. They will not be happy until you are unable to defend yourselves. First, they're going to come and say, let's make AR-15s illegal. Then they're going to say, high-capacity magazines have to be illegal. Then they're going to limit the number of guns you can have. Then they're going to tell you that semi-automatic rifles are wrong and they need to be made illegal. Then they're going to take away semi-automatic pistols. The next thing you know, there'll be no handguns. Well, they won't stop. And we can't give an inch. And I will tell you this, they'll only ask for more, and what I'm going to say is no more. No more, not on my watch.
Yeah!
Now that's pretty blunt, but I'm going to tell you the truth. The Second Amendment isn't about hunting. It's not about concealed carry. It's not about self-defense. The Second Amendment was written to preserve our rights to defend against tyranny.
Yes!
Our founding fathers wrote the Second Amendment in the aftermath of a war where farmers and tradesmen, ordinary citizens, won against the most powerful military force in the world. They wrote the Second Amendment so future generations of Americans would never feel the yoke of tyranny. The Second Amendment is not about hunting. The Second Amendment is about liberty. The proof is right in the Bill of Rights. Take a careful look. The First Amendment says Congress shall make no law to abridge the freedom of speech. The Second Amendment says the rights of the people shall not be infringed. The Fourth Amendment says that the rights of the people shall not be violated. The government doesn't give us our rights.
No!
We've had these rights. The Bill of Rights doesn't give us our rights. Our founders knew that we were endowed by a creator with certain inalienable rights.
Yes!
Under my watch, the inalienable right to bear arms will never be infringed. I will never vote to weaken the Second Amendment. I'm running against a guy named Sherrod Brown. And believe it or not, he was the lesser of two evils at one point. Well, I think he is the evil. We're going to beat Sherrod Brown November. I'm going to beat Sherrod Brown November. I'm going to outwork him.
Yes!
I'm going to outspend him. And I'm going to outdebate him.
Yes!
On May 8th, I need you to go to the polls and vote for Mike Gibbons. I am proud to be here with real American patriots, and thank you for having me.
Yes!
Thank you.
All right, really quick public announcement. Stacy McIntyre, if you're in the crowd right now, your car is about to be towed. So, Stacy McIntyre, run to your car.
All right, guys, we've got another speaker for you. Then we'll probably take a little break. Her name is Paige Seaman. She's a woman, she's a mother, and just has some opinions on Senate Bill 260.
Oh, yes.
So here she is. Paige?
You absolutely have my vote.
Yes, you got mine.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Columbus. You all look beautiful. I am very honored to be here with all of you today and to see my brothers and sisters come together in such a fashion. There are a lot of people. Thank you all for coming out and supporting us. We really need you, and we're going to continue to need you. And I'm a wife, a grandmother, and I'm honored to be here as an American patriot woman. I'm here in protest for any legislation. Our current Governor Kasich said he would veto a stand your ground bill. But this is ridiculous in and of itself. For someone poses a threat to your family's life, we have this right, Mr. Kasich. Maybe he needs to be reminded of a thing called self-defense. Our Second Amendment was never meant to be regulated. We are out here trying to be law-abiding citizens, carrying by your laws, trying to be respectful of those laws, and where does it get us? Our rights are inherent rights, and they were never intended to be regulated, but they are and were never intended. But they are trying to do just that, and most gunners I know are trying to be law-abiding, responsible. However, the criminals are not. Most gun owners I know aren't acting that way. I find it ironic that the legislative lawmakers have at their disposal the means to track, record firearm sale, and will simply change the way that we purchase our weapons. Then they will not have a clue how many guns, the brand, the make, the model we will have. So they realize they have all their abilities, and they will lose all of that. They are going to lose all of that if they choose to make us choose where we purchase our firearms. And pardon the pun, but the level of thinking of these people, I say challenge accepted. And Halliburton can't build the jails fast enough. There's over 200 million gun owners in this country, and they already have an overcrowding problem. So, try if you must, but I know zero gun owners who are not just going to turn over their AR weapons if they are banned. Can I see a show of hands of how many people are going to turn in their ARs? No.
Tricked me.
This will never happen. We will not comply. If you would like to read about what Thomas Jefferson says about judicial tyranny, we must not have hope in our judicial system. Because he saw a long time ago where it was heading back in 1812 when he wrote a letter to C. Hammond. When all government, domestic, foreign, and little or great things shall be drawn to Washington at the center of its power, it will render powerless the checks provided by one government on another. It will become as venal and oppressive as the government from which we separated. Why do we keep and bear arms? According to Noah Webster, it is to prevent Congress from executing unjust and unconstitutional laws, to keep the federal government from becoming tyrannical and oppressive, and the people keeping and bearing arms should be superior to any force by Congress, to prevent their ability to exert their own power on a whim. Stand here today with you, amongst all my patriot brothers and sisters, to say again, we will not comply.
Never!
Our families are not yours to control. Our children are not your property. Our guns are not your property. And we will not take on legislative or hand over our God-given rights away that our forefathers and veterans fought to secure for all of us. Yeah. So be on notice. In these votes, you are classifying yourself to our lawmakers. I just want them to know that. So they better classify themselves because we are turning out. So be on notice. I encourage everyone here today to go home and read about Washington's prophetic vision. We need to be aware of many countless rights that are all being disregarded. And we must be vigilant, strong, and brave. And one more fun fact I'd like to add is that of the 130 mass shootings, all were by registered Democrats. So that's another fun fact we can go home and research.
Ban Democrats!
Yes. You don't see them being regulated. You see them trying to fight against us and trying to take from us what was rightfully given from the beginning. Our forefathers knew that, but evidently a lot of our citizens do not. So we must keep trying to keep people awake, keep everyone vigilant, stay on your lawmakers. I have emailed and called I don't know how many lawmakers, and I've not received a single supply back from Mary Taylor's excellent speech. How about Mary Taylor? Yeah. I think I found who I'm voting for. So thank you again, and thank you everybody to come out.
Hey guys, we're going to take a little break just to let everybody regroup and mix and mingle a little bit, but we'll be back in just a few. Thanks again for coming out, everybody. It means the world to us.
Find a restroom, let me know where it's at.
Yeah. What I'm going to do is just go up here and take a crowd shot.
I'll be right here.
Here's the crowd, folks. Here's the crowd. We will not be silent. I'll be back. I have to make sure my battery's not going to die. I just did.
Okay.
Mike, you got fans here. They know you.
What?
Fans from
Oh, hi. How you doing?
Good. Squid.
Hey, good to see you guys.